Hello and welcome to the Times of India. I am Sanjeev Singh. For the past few days, Maharashtra has been witnessing social unrest in a few parts and some districts, including the epicenter that has been the Bhima Koregaon area. What exactly are these protests all about, and are the Dalits justified in taking to the streets to express their anguish and anger? Joining me is Times of India Sanjeev Shankaran. Sanjeev, if you can just sort of break down as to what has been the cause of this entire incident that is playing out for the past few days in Maharashtra.
I think what's happened has been happening at many levels. The most proximate cause is the battle at that region. 200 years ago, the East India Company fought with the troops of the Peshwa, who was on his last legs there. And the East India Company had quite a few soldiers who belonged to the Mahar subcaste of Dalits.
Okay.
Now, and subsequently, the East India Company's forces made they were outnumbered, but they stood their ground. So, in a small sense, that was a victory for them. But for a lot of Dalits, that particular battle was symbolic of a larger war that they were fighting against the caste system, where they were right at the bottom. And then there was a memorial built in that location, Koregaon, which subsequently became, thanks to Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar's visit there, became a kind of pilgrimage spot every year where a lot of people who actually served in the Mahar regiment and a lot of Dalits would go there to commemorate the occasion of the battle. So this year was the 200th anniversary of that battle, and there was a large crowd gathering there in any case because it's become more popular over a period of time. But I think what had happened is, the backstory is that it was not just that there were problems there on that day. Prior to that, there are many. It's sometimes very difficult to figure out what actually is a fact in our history. There was another tomb which was allegedly desecrated. Now that's again being contested, and whether there was a desecration or not, which did not go down well with the Mahars. And a couple of and all that was
it was basically about the signboard in the name of Mr. Vijay Gaikwad, the person who had actually helped. That's another story. So
that's a story that not all groups are willing to buy. But let's just put it this way: the commemoration of a win for an East India Company regiment does not go down well with everyone. But that is a very important aspect of the way Dalits see themselves.
But what we've seen in the past 2 days is that Mumbai and some other cities, Pune, have actually have borne the brunt of this anger that just spilled out on the streets. One person on January 1 person died in the so-called fracas, and then after that we've seen this sort of anger coming out. But is it justified to resort to this sort of violence?
I mean, in a democracy, any group has the right to protest. I mean, that's a legitimate right in a democracy. But to take recourse to violence is not justified under any circumstances, because inevitably the toll or the cost is paid by the innocent people who are not directly related to the cause of the protest. And in the case of Bombay, there was a lot of damage to property. There were people who were hurt. And eventually, the groups that protest also end up with people getting hurt. And they're usually the weakest. There are young men who end up going to hospitals, or in some cases die, or they're arrested, and then they have to deal with the fallout of that arrest.
Sanjeev, we are already getting some comments. Nitin Mehta says it's all dirty politics. Yusuf Salahuddin has said very well described for you. Sanjana says that I do not think that the Dalit protests are justified. And he's just added another comment. Sanjay says, whosoever is given a call, they should all be held liable for the losses that we are making. Do you agree with that?
Well, I would say that if a group calls for a protest, it is their responsibility to make sure that the people are in control, as in they don't go around damaging public property or private property of other people. I mean, burning somebody's motorcycle is not a nice thing to do. But I would also hold the state government responsible for quite a few things. I mean, they surely would have had the intelligence that there could be problems this year at Bhima Koregaon. And these protests happen with their permission, in the sense that there were police deployed. But it was very obvious in Bombay that they chose not to react.
The point you're making, we have, former DGP of Maharashtra, P.S. Pasricha, saying that they had intelligence about possibility of riots. Police should have been better prepared.
I think that's given the fact that it's coming from a person who is head of police in Maharashtra.
Yeah.
I think you should take this seriously, because there is no way something like this could not have been. I mean, you may not have anticipated every single incident, but trouble should have been anticipated.
So this is the sort of losses we're looking at. Almost revenue loss of 2 crore for best, it says.
See, and what we don't know is what is not going to be calculated is there are a lot of people who are daily wagers. They make a living. I mean, it could be somebody selling vegetables, it could be somebody else doing something, and their loss is tremendous. I mean, they've lost a day, maybe more than a day's wage.
So, Kritika Gupta says, she has a question for you, Sanjeev. Don't you think these people took the advantage of their caste? I assume she's talking about the Dalits. While Nitin Charbe says it is very much justified, Sudhir Mangul says India needs to root out the caste system. Avinash Srivastav, what were Azadi slogans, communist red flags, green Islamic flags doing in the so-called Dalit agitation? Purnima Chandrasekharan says it is all because of the divisive politics by Congress and its allies to destabilize the unity between Hindu communities. Nitin Singh says protest, but for what? What has happened? That's what I think everyone wants to know, Sanjeev. What happened that these protests had to come?
Just to correct the perception, it was not a Bandh called only by Dalits, as we got to know Sambhaji Brigade also was also called for a Bandh. So it was, while Dalits may have been at the forefront, they may have been in larger numbers there, but it was not just a Dalit organization which called for a Bandh. Now, I mean, were there other organizations?
You mentioned the Sambhaji Brigade. So basically, this is what Jignesh Mevani has to say. Dalit, he's basically put out this tweet. This is Jignesh Mevani's timeline. He says it is RSS Hindutva goons who led this chaos and made Mumbai, Pune, Maharashtra burn in caste hate. And he has put the photos of these two people.
Jignesh Mevani has made this allegation, so have a few other people, that these two groups, which are very loosely described as right wing, have been active in that area for a while, where they don't take kindly to, let's say, the commemoration of the victory over the Peshwa, for instance. And they have actively worked against what has been an annual affair. There is a large number of Dalits gathering on that spot. Now, this was a 200th year, so you would have expected a larger crowd. There were two things that happened. Prior to what happened on January 1st, there was this alleged desecration of another tomb. On January 1st, when Dalits had gathered for the commemoration at Koregaon, there were allegedly goons belonging to these two organizations who threw stones at them, who resorted to violence, and the protests subsequently were in response to that, perhaps partly blaming the state government for not doing enough. But as I said, it was not just the Dalit groups that called for a Bandh. Sambhaji Brigade also called for a Bandh, which is not a Dalit group.
But, again, the whole question comes that, that there is this sort of gathering that happens every year. This is the 200th year. Yet, somewhere the police seems to have been missing.
Which is why I would say the primary problem here is the failure of the state government, because there is a huge gathering running maybe into 1 million people. In any case, you should be prepared. And this is the 200th year. All your intelligence would have told you that there is going to be trouble this year because there's a lot of friction between different groups. After that, there was a Bandh called in Mumbai. Fair enough. Okay, they called a Bandh. But as Times of India paper also says today, the police just didn't do anything when some people turned violent. And the police would not have done that had they not received orders from the political executive that don't do anything that precipitates matter or triggers more violence. But then we saw that happening in Chandigarh and Panchkula.
Yes, the
Haryana.
Gujarat agitation.
Yeah, not just chart agitation. Subsequently, when Dera Sacha Saga,
Oh yeah, of course. When they were allowed to gather.
They were
in one
allowed to
place.
gather, and then they were allowed to run riot for a couple of hours, and then the police started firing. But so I would blame the state government primarily for failing to do its job.
Sanjeev, very quickly, how does the politics play out? Because Dalits on one hand, Marathas on the other hand, it is going to be a problem for the BJP.
Well, yeah, as the government, as the party in power, BJP will have to deal with the fallout. There's obviously a lot of undercurrent that we haven't quite captured, which has led to such a big event in the sense that you've had a city being crippled, not just Bombay, but other places in Maharashtra were also crippled. There are groups that are openly at each other's throats. So, as the party in power and as the single largest party in the assembly, it's the BJP that has to figure out a way to paper over these cracks.
What about the Shiv Sena? They've been
Yes,
surprisingly very quiet on this issue.
Actually, Shiv Sena, through their party mouthpiece, Samna editorial, has criticized the state government. They're a part of the state government. They're an ally of the BJP, even in the center. They have a minister in the Council of Ministers in the center. But they pointed out that the Home Ministry is also held by the Chief Minister. So they've criticized the Chief Minister and his performance.
Now the problem is that the Dalit outfits are asking for action against Sambhaji Bide and Milind Egbote. So where does that leave the government now?
See, I mean, it's for the government to investigate because it's not just the Dalit outfits who are asking for action. If an FIR has also been filed against Jignesh Mewani and Khalid. Now everybody's asking for action against somebody or the other. It's for the state government to get the police to investigate and actually prosecute people who are guilty of something.
Well, so in the end, it basically it boils down to the fact that if there were more policing on the ground, maybe that death wouldn't have taken place, and then things wouldn't have snowballed. So thank you so much, Sanjeev, for joining us. And there you have it. Thankfully, now parts of Maharashtra are slowly going back to normalcy, but the fact remains that the government will have to get to the bottom of the entire incident and why was there no active policing happening when they knew such a large gathering was taking place. Thank you so much for joining the Times of India, but do stay tuned in for live updates.